And we're starting this season with a very important topic,
Yeah,
right? How to be a great spouse.
yeah.
I think last season, part of the things we spoke about and emphasized, and this is not just a relationship podcast, but hey, you caught me.
No problem.
No Allah. But
The
part
plan was for it to not be just a
a
relationship
relationship,
podcast,
yes,
but talk about
lifestyle,
other
yeah.
stuff that are that we don't really talk about from the pulpit and stuff like that. But it turns out that human beings like relationship, and that's thing that's bothering them the
I
most.
don't blame them. Love is sweet.
Love is sweet
Yes, no. So
and it's addictive.
yes.
Okay,
So let me
so
say we no do our own love. Before it will now be as if we enter, we
it's
now
true
close
now.
the
Before they
door.
say you have
So
enjoyed your own, now let us to do. Yeah,
so
let's go.
yeah. But one of the things we really emphasized last season was how to know great people, how to find a great spouse, and things like that. But we are starting off this season with the focus on the person,
Yeah, on yourself.
on yourself, because most times it looks like it's always about the next person being the object of what you should look out for and everything, without realizing that you gotta remove the one in your eye first, so that you can see clearly to remove the one in there.
That's a very good analogy.
And it's even beyond entering a relationship. You have to be good people. You have to be great people. Don't let me start preaching to the choir. I keep saying that we will know, right? The true test, the true litmus test that Christians are doing what Christians do is that the world will generally be a better place to live. Now, I'm not saying the world is not a good place to live, because
Yeah,
I don't now want to know what the world will look like if everybody had like totally dark hearts out of God. But that's how I always say that if truly the mass of people who identify themselves with Jesus are living the way Jesus said you should live, it will show. Like
yeah,
the world will just generally
yeah.
feel,
Salt and light.
yeah, it will feel like a better place, and Nigeria
Salt
will
and
not
light.
stop being so hot
Yeah,
because of all the sin, and things will be cool and calm.
Lagos will be cooler.
Lagos will be cooler.
It's Mammon that making space.
Only for you to think that Canada is an okay place. And then you
That's
gotta
why
watch
Canada
the
is
news.
cold because even
Okay,
space they
that's
are
why
cold.
it's so cold. Okay, so
Yes.
it's either you're too cold or you're
Also
too hot.
exactly.
I get it. I
So if
get
you want
it.
to be in the middle,
You
go
have
to where
to.
people are saved, like Christians in the north. The temperatures there is okay in plates to stay it. Yeah, so
Okay. Thank you. By the time they reproduce this part we sent for you. But anyway, so let's go into today's topic: how to be a great person. And the key here is to really go as deep as we can. The goal here is to get people to think. The goal here is to get people to ask themselves critical questions. The goal here is to get people to evaluate themselves. Right now, we're not looking at others. I don't want ladies looking at guys to say how, if I know you're a good person. And I don't want guys looking for ladies to say all those things. The object of this particular, I don't know how long we'll do this, but the object is you, yourself as a person.
yeah,
So
so
the goal is to look in the mirror,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah, because what you said earlier is very important. That if you cannot take the speck out of your own eye, right, you cannot take the log out of someone else's. In fact, part of the reason why a lot of people seem to make poor choices because relationship talks are usually talking about how to recognize a good person, the things to look out for, and the things to that are red flags and all that. And those things are not necessarily wrong, but all those statements assume that the person has the capacity, the
So
fundamental
yeah,
capacity to recognize
identify.
what is good and what is evil, or what is bad in a person and what is good in a person, and not just to recognize it, even if they somehow recognize it, to actually accept that that thing is good for them. Because one thing to even know that someone is good is another thing to actually accept that that thing is good. If I've heard a lot of stories of ladies that will say, it's ladies that come to mind, so I'm not picking on your gender. But you hear a lot of stories that come to mind where people say, there was this guy, he was actually a very good guy, he was a friend, but he was just too boring for me.
Okay.
So it's not just a matter of, you're feeling it, Abby? Thank you very much. So it's not just a matter of even, is number one, you need to have the ability to recognize what is good.
Yeah.
The second thing is for you to, when you recognize what is good, to accept that it's good for you and actually enjoy what is good for you.
Because if you're not looking, if you're not thirsty for the wrong things, when you see water, you will drink the water
Yeah,
to
exactly.
satisfy you.
You
You'll
know,
be looking for something
and
else.
the ability to get those two things starts with you yourself having that nature,
Yeah.
you having that capacity. I'm sure that when we go further in the discussion, people recognize why it actually starts with you yourself being a good person.
Let's
It
go.
actually starts with you yourself. People people who fall prey to violent spouses, that deal with them usually have some kind of character defect of their own. People who fall for a girl that was materialistic and dumped them for a richer guy usually have one kind of character defect that made it possible for that kind of thing to happen to them, right? So at the end of the day, right?
And those are two wrongs.
And yeah, those are, of course, those are two wrongs that don't make it right. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, the point is, now, I'm not even saying in terms of the guy was a bad person and all that. It's really that there's some kind of defect in the person's character that make them, number one, not recognize the bad behavior of that person, or number two, recognize it and decide to stay there.
Okay.
So that's why, and even as Christians, the first thing that you should be talking about, before you even start talking about finding a good person, the first thing is, am I a good
good
spouse?
person, yeah.
Right? That's where it starts from. Like, am I a good spouse? If I think of myself, when I think of the kind of person that I am I someone that my future spouse is going to love? Am I someone that's going to be a good spouse to my future spouse? You know, that kind of
If I
thing.
was someone else,
Will I want to date me?
will I want to date
If I was
you?
someone else, if I was a good person, if I was my sister, that sounds wrong. If I was someone that I love, or if someone that I love sees someone like me,
Would they want to date?
would you advise the person to date that kind of person? You understand? Because you are looking for someone that is good. Every time we are praying, we keep praying for people that God will give you a good spouse, right? When many times, if God is answering that prayer, and that's the reason why they themselves have not gotten a
They've
good
not got
person.
because
You
are going
yourself,
to be
you are a bad
yes, you're going to
spouse,
be a
and
very terrible person.
God is
to-
protecting people
he's,
from
he's
you.
protecting his other children.
Exactly.
So let's jump right into it.
All right.
Right.
So,
Before we go to how, what's the picture? Let's paint the profile of a great spouse.
okay, so I'll just continue with the heuristic that I talked about in the first season.
In English, please. Sorry, in relatable
The
English.
word I'm going to just start with the principle,
Okay.
with the kingdom principle that I established
You
in the
just had
first. There was not that word for it now. With the rule and the idea that I started with, which is that um, every good relationship every good relationship with a very good person has three parts to it, which are which have different levels of importance to them. And because they have different levels of importance to them, they are in a hierarchy. And if you are making a choice, your choice should start and follow that hierarchy. And I said the first thing is the person's core values. Core values are very important. If there's a mismatch in core values, or if one person has bad core values, it will give that relationship unnecessary problem, right? Then the next thing is the person's personality and interest. So things that have to do with the person's personality type, interest, and all those kinds of things. Core values are the person's beliefs about the world.
I was going to go there, but I wanted you to list everything. Then
Okay,
we'll
okay,
go.
let me
Yeah.
okay. So core values, personality and interest, and then finally the external things that have to do with the body, how they look, how much money they have, their social
Other
status,
external factors.
external factors. So those are the three levels, and that is also the order of how important they are for a good marriage. If you get the top one right, the two other ones are more manageable. If you get the first two right, you are going to even enjoy your relationship more. If you get the three right, it's going to
It's
be like
almost
it's perfect.
perfect, yeah.
But because we live in a broken world, you might not always have the three at once. And because people can be worked on, you might not always have the three at the beginning of the marriage. So it's always better that at least that first one is settled and you can work on the other two. Those are the things. So that's why people tell you that you can work on some things in marriage, some things you cannot work on. You need to know the things you can work on and the things you
things you can't
cannot
work
work on.
So let's
So
go
the
to the
things that
first.
yeah, so core values, so we're reiterating, Abby.
Yeah.
So core values are a person's belief systems, what the person fundamentally believes about the world, the way the person looks at the world. And a great spouse, and I should say that a great spouse is someone that will be a good companion to you as you are in the journey of fulfilling God's plan for your
Your
life.
life. Yeah.
So because someone can be a good companion on the journey to hellfire. You understand that? So
A fellow comrade.
if you come read on the Broadway, so he's a good companion that you're having a good experience with while you are fulfilling God's plan for your life. Because this thing happens a lot. A lot of people say, "Yeah, he gets me and all that and all that." What you mean by he gets me is that he's helping
He's
me to
helping me
manifest
to-
the flesh,
to-
and so both of you
to
not be
cook my
destroying each
sin.
other and everything and killing
Yeah.
yourselves. So a companion that is on the way to heaven with you. Now, core values are most important thing, and they are a person's operating system. They are the way the person views the world. I should say this at this point. There are a lot of psychologists. If you go for therapy, marriage counseling, and all that, what they will tell you from the secular perspective is that personality type is the most important fit.
Yeah.
That you should look for someone that fits your personality and all that. But for Christians, it's not true. Christians is not true. And that's the reason why in the Bible you will not see a lot of emphasis on how to find a good spouse. Because if the core values are right and we are both children of God
And
and we
we're
have the core
doing,
values,
yes,
those
we're
other
living
things are
out.
amenable,
Yeah.
right? So core values is how a person sees, what the person believes about um what the person believes about the world,
Well, their worldview,
what person's
what
worldview,
drives their
yeah, what the
thought.
person believe about family, what does the person believe about God, what does the person believe about church, what does the person believe about extended family, work, money, and all these
So
things.
give me a picture of a great spouse. What would a great spouse normally believe about the world, about family?
Are we going there? All right. So that list is long.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
but let me summarize it like
yes,
this.
summarize
Let
it.
me summarize it like this. A great spouse, the core values of a great spouse, someone that will really help you, is someone who has Christian values.
Okay.
In summary, we'll talk about some things.
Christian values being so that we don't confuse ourselves before it.
Christian values is the outlook of the world that Jesus exemplified and revealed to us.
Okay.
That belief system, the kind of core values that Jesus exemplified on how to live your life and how to see the world. A person who has Jesus' values, oh, you are made.
Keeps quick segue. Is it
Okay.
possible to have Jesus values without being a Christian?
No,
Why now? There are people that they are fans of Jesus now.
no,
They actually
yeah, don't mind them.
they subscribe to the
It's a scam. It's a
Beatitudes,
scam.
to the greatest command.
It's a scam. Let me tell you Jesus'
Why is it a
values.
scam?
Jesus' values is, for example, let's talk about love, faith, and hope, right?
Yeah.
Love is going or willing the maximal good of the person for the person's sake.
Okay.
Love is pushing for, fighting for, working for the good of the person for the person's sake. That assumes that you know what is good and that you have the capacity
To do.
to do what is good. Now, if a person does not believe in Jesus, the person cannot know what is good for you. Because the person going to reject some fundamental things that Jesus accepts as good. And number two, the person will not have the capacity because by the flesh, you cannot live out Jesus' kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
So the person cannot love in that sense. The person can be nice, the person can be kind. Because of the common grace of God to all of humanity, the person will have some good ethics.
Yeah.
But that quality of life that is, the Jesus quality of life, of worldview and everything, even Christians fall short of it and have to, they fall 7 times, but have to pick themselves up and grow in that sanctification. How much somebody that rejects Jesus altogether? Because, it's just now that we're talking about, there are a lot of things, apart from the nice part of Jesus, in quotes, there are a lot of things that Jesus believes that someone that rejects Jesus cannot accept. Cannot accept.
Yeah.
Carry your cross.
Just like recently we were talking about Jesus saying, I did not come for peace.
I did not come for peace.
War.
I'm a man of war.
I'm a man of war. Right. But
So-
just to emphasize that part of good, I think the reason why it's important is because you can't even begin to define good outside of God.
Yeah.
The best you can do is define what you like, what satisfies, what you think is good,
What you prefer.
what you prefer, or some, to be honest, some inherited moral ethics still grounded in God. But it's only your creator that can give you, that can define what is good and what is evil. And the reason why it's important to say that today is that today some part of the world believe that what is good is allowing a child or a teenager make a decision where they mutilate themselves in the name of identifying as another
That's
gender.
not love. You don't love that child.
That's not good, right? No matter how the person swears that it makes them feel, and I'm not even invalidating their feeling, but you already know that. Let me focus, please.
It's going on YouTube, have you?
Yes, it's
Now
going
also
on YouTube.
invalidates feelings, oh. But let's continue. Let's continue.
Worst case scenario, but yeah, we'll put it on Twitter because. But yeah, right. The point I was just trying to make is the reason why God has to be central. And by God, I don't mean universe or mother nature.
Yeah.
I mean Jesus Christ. Right? God has revealed in Jesus Christ. The reason why it's important that that is what anchors your soul, that is what anchors your definition of good, is because if you were to ask 10 different people with 10 different worldviews, right, not anchored in Christ, what good is, at best on the surface it might sound alike, but
when you get deep,
when you get deep,
you'll
it's
see a lot
not
of
the same.
fundamental
It's not the
differences,
same
yeah.
thing. What is anchoring the definition is different. For some people, what's anchoring their definition is how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
For some people, what's anchoring their definition is how it makes the average people feel.
The most number of
The
people
most
feel.
number of people feel. It's different things, but for us, we believe that what is anchoring that decision is what God has said, because we know that God is good,
Yeah.
and God wants the best for us.
Yeah.
So let's now dial back a bit, because we're trying to paint that picture of what the good spouse looks like. right?
Okay.
So I was saying that when you when you said things like Christian worldview, I was saying when you said things of worldview, I asked what kind of worldview. So you said Christian worldview. So you mentioned some other things in defining good. So give me examples. Like I'm trying to create a
Okay.
shigidi called the good spouse. Let's
Okay.
go on.
So, okay, we're not going to talk about how to get there yet, Abby. We're going to
Yes,
try to paint the
we're still
fundamental picture
painting the
first.
picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the fundamental picture, the background picture is, if I say is the Christian worldview on how the Christian worldview, your belief system are grounded in what the Lord revealed in his character and his nature and the kind of values he has. And that is grounded in the fact that the person that created us has a purpose for us.
Yeah.
So what is good for us is what fulfills God's purpose for us, right? And so if what fulfills God's purpose for us is what is good, anything that takes us away from God's purpose for us
It's
is
evil.
evil, no
Yeah.
matter how good it
It
feels.
feels.
So
Yeah.
that's one fundamental difference between what we believe is good and what the world believes is good, because they will define good by maybe how it is, the utility of it, how it benefits the most number of people, or how the most powerful person likes it, or they have different standards. But for us, is what the Lord has revealed is our purpose and everything that flows towards it. And this is very, very important. The telos of something is the essence of something, the purpose for which something was made. And good is what flows towards it. And that is the basis of the Christian values that everybody should have. So that's why we believe, that's why a Christian man, for example, will not, a Christian man that has Christian values, right, will not subjugate his wife, because the purpose of God for a woman is that a woman also, just like God gave the man the purpose for being fruitful, multiplying, and
And
replenish the earth and
she
all that.
can leave her
Exactly.
purpose. Yeah.
So that fundamental value, the way Jesus treated women, is the value system of a man, and that is his outlook towards women, right? And so that will guide how he thinks about women and all that. The same thing for women and vice versa. If you are outside of the Christian value, for example, let's use different ideas. For example, you're a Muslim, you would objectively believe that the woman is at the disposal of the man, and a woman doesn't is not up to the worth of a man and all that. And one man can have four women and all those kinds of things. And as a Muslim father, you would genuinely think that it is good for your wife, your daughter, to go and be the second wife or third wife of another person. And as a Muslim man, you genuinely believe that it is good for a woman to come and be your second wife and your third wife. And you genuinely believe that is what is good for her. But it's not because the problem is the framework from which your definition of good is coming from, is
Allows for
like that.
things like that. Yeah.
An atheist that doesn't believe in God, or someone that says I'm agnostic, we don't know what's really happening, so let's just live our lives anyhow, will
Yeah.
say,
Can be open.
I can leave you to live your life anyhow you
Yeah.
want. But if I leave you to live your life anyhow you want, you will do a lot of things that will destroy you, that will make you miserable. Like we're already seeing in the world now, and all these things. You just make yourself miserable right now and all that. So, yeah, basically, that's where your core value should come from. What the belief of a Christian is at the core.
Okay. So those are core values. Now the next level.
Personality and interest.
Yeah.
So, core
Let
values.
me just ask, are they bad personalities?
Okay. No, there are no. Personalities, there are different kinds of personalities. We all have different kind of personalities. In psychology, you have 5 metrics by which you rate different kind of personalities, and we are all different levels of each part of those personalities. So, and these things are ingrained. They are modifiable to an extent based on the things that happen to you in life, but they are generally ingrained, right? And God created us like that, so there's no wrong personality. Someone that is an introvert, being an introvert is not better than being an extrovert. Being high on conscientiousness is not
Better than
worse
being
than being on low on consciousness.
disagreeable.
Being agreeable is not necessarily better than being disagreeable, and all these things. Being open or creative is not necessarily better than being not as open or creative to new experiences and all that. People are just different,
Yeah.
right? So there are no bad personalities, so to say, as long as. Let me just stop there. I will explain more as we go on.
Okay.
So personality and interest.
So again, we're painting the picture.
Yeah.
So if there are no bad personalities, why is personality in the mix? Because if we say core values, we've already identified core values.
Okay.
Now we said core values, personality, and then external factors. So again, we are painting this good person. what does the personality of a good person now look like?
Okay, so
Remember, people, because people want to evaluate themselves,
yeah.
right? So what is there actually a personality of a good person?
Okay, so no, everybody can have different kind of personalities and they're all good people.
Yeah.
Actually, what makes a person good starts from core values. And they can have different kind of personalities. But I'm going to talk about, when I want to talk about how to talk in place of personality and all that, right? We'll talk more about it. But there is no good personality. There are different personality types. Someone that is quiet is not a bad person. Someone that is loud is not a good person, right? It's the values that you hold while having those different experiences, those different personalities, is what makes you a good or a bad person.
So it has to lean the it has to lean on the foundation of the core
Core
values
values,
that you
right?
have.
So
Yeah.
you can have different personalities, but the core values are the substance of it. So you can have bad values and be a very quiet person. That means you are just a silent killer. And you can have bad values and be a loud person. You're just a loud killer. It doesn't. So different kind of personalities is the core, is the values that matter. Now, personalities matter, and if you go to a psychologist, they will tell you it matters a lot. And they will tell you that they won't tell you that personality is what you should pick the most. Why? Because similarity in personality and interests makes it easier to
Easier
flow with a person.
to communicate.
Yeah, it makes it easier to communicate, makes it easier to be understood on certain things, and generally it makes it easier to flow with the person, right? It doesn't make it impossible to flow with someone of a different personality, obviously, right? Because if you are in a place where you have to flow with someone of a different personality, like if you are at work where you have to make money, you will not say
You will not
because your
say
vibe
that
is different,
this
you'll
person's
say,
personality is
no,
incompatible
it's
with my
nothing
work
like that.
ethic.
We work it out in the office, right? You understand? So if assuming that you are saved, that you're going to a good church, if you have a brother or sister in church that has a funny personality, you won't say because of that I'm leaving the church. What do? You make it work, right? So similar personalities can make things easier. What I mean is, if you see someone that likes going out like you, that likes having new experiences like you, and you naturally gravitate towards having new experiences, both of you will find it easy to flow
Yeah.
in going out. If both of you are quiet, you like staying in the house, you are introverts, you find it easier for both of you to stay introvert and all that. If one person likes talking and one person likes keeping quiet, right? The one that likes keeping quiet will be talking. And the other one is like, I'm talking, why are you not talking back? I'm like, bro, you're talking too
I'm
much. I'm
just
stressed.
hearing. I'm
I'm just
even
hearing
okay.
you, that kind of thing. Some people are more conscientious. That means they know how to plan their lives. They take their time and they're diligent.
Whereas some people are
Some people are just all
adventurous.
over the place and
Yeah.
all that and all that. Some people are agreeable and disagreeable. Like someone that's disagreeable, as a good person, is open to confrontation. You do something bad, they tell you immediately that this thing you do may not make sense, bro. No, not
Like
do this thing
confrontation
again.
on Twitter.
You know? So they can tell you some people don't like confrontation. What they will do is that they'll be hoping that you guess how they are feeling and then somebody to come up and they rather say, let's not talk about it, I'll just forgive you and those differences. But meanwhile, you're keeping the resentment in your mind and all that. So those differences in personalities need some management. And this is where a lot of advice, that's why psychologists focus on this part to say it is very important. But guess what? They give that advice because the people they are advising are not Christians. They are people of the world that when they think of relationship, they think of themselves, not the other person. Personality will be a big deal to you if you are thinking of yourself. I want someone that flows with what I
I
want.
want someone that
I want someone
knows.
that does what I want.
I see. So the person has to fit me.
It has to fit me.
Okay, so
For Christians, it's not like that. It's easier, honestly and truly, to get someone with similar personalities.
so that you're
And
not stressing yourself. You're not
yes,
necessarily
yes,
molding or changing. You are the
exactly,
one not doing the work because the
exactly,
person already fits you.
exactly. In a perfect world, the perfect relationship would be same core values, same personality, and acceptable external factors. But in this world, it's not always like that, right? And sometimes you're actually constrained. You can see a good person that doesn't have a similar personality with you. You won't stay
Don't
because of that
say
in a hand. So, and all those kinds of things. I know the funny thing about personality is that things do happen in life.
that
Things
can
do happen, usually happen, that can even tweak your personality
yeah.
over time.
Okay,
That kind of thing. So that's why personality is a big deal.
it's a big deal.
But it's not, let me not say it's a big deal, it's a medium deal.
Okay.
No, yes, it's a medium
It's the
deal.
second level. It's
It's
not
the
at the
second
top
level,
of the
it's not at the
hierarchy
top.
on what we are
It's
talking
more
about.
amenable, but it can be an issue. It can be
Okay.
an issue.
So follow up to this. If I understand you, what I hear you saying is because remember we are doing man in the mirror. That's what this is
Yeah.
about. So for a person in thinking of how to be a good spouse, you have to kind of understand what your personality is.
Yeah.
Really and truly.
Yeah.
You have to be aware
Yeah.
right? Of you have to be aware that this is my personality and all of that. Not necessarily because I'm aware of my personality, so that I can use it, just like you said, in a low key selfish manner, right? To just be thinking of how other people will fit what I do. But you also need to understand yourself, because you need to understand that your personality might also not be perfect, quote unquote, for another person or for the next
Yeah. Do
person.
you remember when we met?
I was funny enough. That was the second thing I was going to ask you, right? So, in the spirit of being open and vulnerable, we know our personalities. Do you know my personality?
Ah, see me see trouble. More personality and budget. I can predict you with 99% accuracy.
Lol. Right. So we know our personalities, right? And then our personalities the same.
Very different. No, not very
Not
different.
very
But
different.
there's some things that we differ. Like when we met, right? Do you remember when we met? Should I say it outside?
Don't say it outside.
Okay. Okay, let me say it in psychological terms.
Okay,
It's
it's
in
better like
medical
that.
terms that people don't really understand. That have to go and read it. So when we met, you were still a little bit higher on neuroticism. Don't forget, you remember you were a flight risk. Any
I know
small
I've
thing.
always been a flight risk.
Uh-huh.
I want to
But
fly.
your neuroticism has dropped over time.
Has it
Yes,
though?
it has now. Neuroticism has dropped over time. Remember when we first met? Let me tell you one of the things that she did for me one day.
Yeah,
We
tell
were
me.
talking, and next she just started crying that she wants to break up.
We are on air.
And now is that not what happened? I say, what happened? Just say, I'm just not, I'm feeling more kind. Not that she's not in love or anything. No. So just what was going through your mind that time?
I don't know. Like, don't ask me. I can't remember. This is how many? This is over like 12 years ago. I can't remember. I think
So
I was. Right, it was just a case of I don't know why. I just was afraid. I think, and I
yeah,
was trying to run. So my reaction to fear was
just run.
to run away. Yeah,
So and my conscientiousness was very, very low. I was very scattered before.
very very
Over time I've
scattered.
become more conscientious, more
The
planned
question
and
is, have you
everything.
always been disagreeable? Because it's like you tricked me. Because normally, somebody that is a man of war, I like peace
No, I
always.
wasn't always disagreeable. I'm naturally
So where did you
agreeable.
pick up this
It just happens
disagreeableness?
over time. It just happens over time.
You know, I've told you before that I believe that you are a naturally disagreeable person.
Eh.
Your upbringing slapped the disagreeableness out of you,
You think
because
so?
yes, you have to respect your others. Which kind of
No, I
nonsense
don't like
disagree?
confrontation. Naturally. I don't like fighting.
But you never run away from a fight. So in your mind, you are deceiving yourself that you don't like fighting, but truly, truly, it do usually ginger you. So I think you're a naturally disagreeable person, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
over
But what has
time, you
happened is
are
that
not.
over time, because of commitment to each other, even when there are differences in what you want to do, what I don't want to do, and all those kinds of things, we just because of working on each other, we'll talk about how we can
But
deal
I
with it
think
over
even
time, bro.
in understanding our personality types, one place it really showed up was in our communication style, right? Because I'm the type of person that will brood. You see all those. I know the funny thing when I keep showing all these TikTok and video reviews, it just shows that the world is just one big global village. Like you would think that what you're going through is unique to you. There's one
You
of
go on
those.
TikTok now, see 20 couples just like you
Just
doing videos like your marriage.
the one I saw recently of someone, he was scrolling through his phone and there was one long text message. I think the person was like, "Oh my god, his girlfriend must have sent him a message." And I remember then when I used to, things will happen. I'll go and brood. I'll now write long epistle. So you
Yeah.
just see long text message. And my personality is one that likes to talk things through. You are very sharp. You would have understood what I'm talking about within the first 2 minutes. But no, we must talk for 20 minutes and finish the talk and do it. And I think understanding my person, understanding your person, it's not now for me to insist that you must be a type of person who likes to talk long, who likes to write long messages and
Yeah.
things like that. I'm also aware that there are parts of my personality that might not be natural. You might not be naturally inclined to. The same way there are parts of your personality that I am not naturally inclined to you. So to whatever extent I'm demanding or hoping or praying or insisting that you change is to the same extent that I too should be
I'm working.
demanding,
Yeah.
hoping, or insisting that I
Sure.
also change,
Sure,
right?
right.
So as whatever I'm issuing to you, I should first issue to
Yeah.
myself.
But you don't. That's another important thing about this personality thing that people need to recognize is that trying to change your personality too much for another person can damage you and in the long run affect your relationship.
Yeah.
Someone who is naturally extroverted
You will recognize yourself
and you now
after
force
a
the person
while.
to become introverted, this thing and all that, right? So these are the parts of personality that come and issue that we can talk about how Christians can have two different personality types and actually have a good marriage. We'll talk about that maybe after now, but let's just continue.
Let's
Let's not segue
continue.
too much,
Okay.
right? So personality and interest, right? So that's basically that's the second level.
So
All
now
right.
to the
So
last level, external circumstances.
external circumstances and the
External being look,
yeah, the heuristic I use is the way a person looks, how much
their
material
context.
resources they have, and their social standing. So this is the third level, which is the external part, right? How a person looks. Is the person good looking or not good looking? Is the person, uh, you know, hot or not hot, so to speak? Is
Rich or poor.
the person rich or poor? And does the person have a high social standing? Is the person popular among your clique or well known or respected and not well respected? This is the third and the final level.
Yeah.
And this is the most unfortunate part. As you go down these three different levels, the chances of changing them increases. Core values are harder to change than personality.
Yeah. Personality is
Personality
harder to change
is harder to change
than looks
than looks.
or
It's
money.
easier. The easiest part of a person that can move overnight is the lowest part. I mean, look at pictures of us when we were in school.
Don't let's go there. They've dragged you about this thing before.
Oh,
Don't go back there.
let anybody else misunderstand.
I was going down your if I say it now, people will now go down your Instagram. I was going down your Instagram. I was looking at some of those your old pictures earlier. I was like, man, do you remember what I said to you when you were preaching
yeah, in handover.
in handover
Yeah,
service?
BCF, yeah.
WCF? I was like,
Yeah.
funny enough, you didn't look that way to me. The way you look to me now
I
is how
looked
you
fresh to you, Abby.
I don't even
But now, you're like, what were you saying? There was a veil over your eyes, covering you until the glory was revealed.
Sha.
Anyway, so you see that last part is the part that can change. And most people actually make decisions based on this last part. It's like the worst thing you can do for your life.
And it can get better or worse.
Yeah, I mean, because a person doesn't look good. I'm going to talk about it. Looking good is actually just, biologically speaking, is actually just a marker of how healthy you are. This is something that people don't understand. That what we instinctively call good looking is actually a function of health. So naturally, the natural man, the carnal man, that instinct inside of man, what human beings generally look at as beautiful is the external signs of being healthy. So that's why a lady will say she likes a tall, dark, and handsome person. What it means is
You might not naturally be inclined to
a
someone
tall,
with big pot
good-looking
belly.
guy is healthy, he's strong, he's fit. So that's what looks attractive.
It looks
to
like
you.
it can lift you like
It can
an
exactly
like
it
an
can
empty
protect
box.
you. Is that natural instinct of a healthy male protecting and providing? It's actually about being healthy. Symmetry. One of the markers of beauty is symmetry. How symmetrical is a person's face? Is the person's eye and two eyes on the same level? Is the person's nose on the same level? Is the person's, you understand? That's actually what people call beauty. Symmetry of the body features and everything. Symmetry is a function of a healthy morphology, right? If your bones and your muscles and your skin are healthy, you have more symmetrical features. People talk about things like clear skin. Clear skin is actually a function because the skin is the greatest, medically speaking, the skin is the thing that shows the symptoms of sickness the most.
yeah.
Of all the parts of your body. From the skin, you can begin to tell a lot of things about how sick a person is. That's why clear skin is attractive to everybody because it's a sign that the person is healthy. You know, in women, the features that people call beautiful and hot and everything are actually features of a healthy, fertile female. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Boobs, hips, tells you this person can nurture a child and give birth healthy. That's what all those things are. That's why when a man begins to get pot belly, he gets less attractive as long as he doesn't have money, right? Physically speaking, not the other things wise. Because pot belly is actually an unhealthy thing. People don't realize this. But medically speaking, it's
Why do you
actually
think people
unhealthy.
don't realize it? We know.
Okay, it's actually unhealthy because now the precursor for diabetes, they're not even using BMI anymore.
using pot
We're now
belly.
using girth, waist girth, and everything. So those things that instinctively look to you that the person is not fine is actually from that biological basis of person does not look healthy. So that is the reason why a guy, when he's in the trenches, will not look fine. The same guy will now have money and not look fresh. Why? Because having more resources has helped him to be able to take care of himself more, and he now looks fine. No, it's not as if he was not always
And those
fine.
are external factors
It's
that can
just,
always
and
change.
they can change overnight. The second one of material resources and all that is someone who is intelligent and skilled at what they are doing, just needs one opportunity, and very soon they'll be able to provide more. It's not about being rich now or being poor, but they'll be self-independent and be able to provide. You know, social standing is very amenable. So everybody likes you, tomorrow nobody cares about you. those things are very
And if you
unmanageable.
had now used that as a basis for you for
You now
which
make a choice based on that third level, you are planning misery for your life. And this is the truth. Most times when people have relationships and they have multiple breakups and all that, it's usually because we're making decisions from this third level.
so they looked at those external factors and were like, I'm in love.
Yes.
Without even knowing the person's personality or without that's why I don't believe in love at first sight.
Yes.
There's no you can't be
There's no love at
you
first
can
sight.
call it
There's lust at first
lost
sight.
at first
There's
sight, you can
attraction
call
at
it
first sight,
whatever you want
and
to
all
call it,
those
but
kinds of
you
things.
can't
But
love someone you
there's
don't
no
know.
love at first sight. You meet someone and you're talking for 2 months, and you've not even gotten the person's views on some things. Only for you to just find out 2 months after that the person will tell you that,
No,
for
imagine someone saying I'm
just
a pedophile. The love would scatter from your eyes.
oh, see,
As in it
see, I just want to tell you something. You're a perfect guy, can you come? I don't tell you that sometimes I'm attracted to children. You just
will
notice that the love has disappeared. That's when you know that you're not in love. Do you understand? Do you understand? That's why if you're a person that has, you hold certain values very important. You notice that if the person just comes and just says something contrary to your values,
It will be like
it will
you
just disappear
overnight.
in your mind. That's why. That's why.
True. So now talking about that same profile, is there a perfect mix for external factors? Remember, we are looking at
Good,
being
good,
a good person because I want to work on myself to be a good person, to be a potential spouse.
Good.
What's the external mix of factors at that level?
So for that level, there's an optimal mix based on the person's context. There's an optimal mix based on the person's context. What that means is the person should be, as long as you have reasonable appetites reasonable physical appetites, a person can be suitably good looking enough for you.
No, so remember we're talking about me. So let's say
Yeah.
what should I do?
Yeah, so sorry, those things are comments on how people look at you. So it's
Yeah.
easy to keep looking at it from the perspective of how people are rating you and all that. But let me tell you the brutal truth. Because of the way society has improved, science and technology, standard of living has improved, we are objectively now better looking than our ancestors. Yeah, generally human beings are healthier, we are taller, our skin is clearer. Yes, generally human beings now are more good looking than their ancestors. If you doubt me, look at your parents' picture and then look at their own parents' picture. On and on and on. People are actually better looking now. Many people, if they see someone today that looks like the way their moms looked when they were young, they won't marry the
They might
person.
not necessarily be attracted
Right?
to
So
the person. Yeah.
at this point, like the brutal truth is this, that if not for unreasonable appetites, there are hardly any people that are, you can say they are ugly, I can't like the person.
Okay, but if you look at those three things you mentioned, physical look, and you said the person, I think people should again working on yourself. You should aspire to at least be healthy.
Yeah.
To
No,
look
we'll
healthy,
still
to
come
look
to how to get that. So
okay.
just to
All right.
describe,
Okay, so you're
what it
saying
looks
that
like that.
it's not as if the perfect good profile must
So
be someone
the-
that is tall, dark,
That's
handsome,
all that can handsome,
yellow.
exactly. So a
Okay, I
lady, you
get what
cannot say the person must have
minimum
size,
of 400K per month.
or minimum of cup size C. And there are boys that have this kind of foolish ratings in their head. Lady will say it must be any minimum of 500K. I pity you. I pity you. All those things are contextual,
Yeah.
right? If you're not going to be, the amount of, this quality of life a person is living is not just a matter of the income that they have, but also the lifestyle that they have. So that means that putting a minimum on how much a person earns assumes that you want to be living a certain kind of high lifestyle. But Christians don't talk like that.
Yeah.
Christians know how to abase and abound. So the real issue is whether the person is independent, whether the person can be financially independent and the person can provide, not how much the person earns. All those kinds of things. So that's why there's an optimal mix based on your context. Based on your context, based on where you are going, there's actually an optimal mix of that third level that a person should have. We're going to talk about
Now
how
let's
to
talk
get
about
there.
how to get there. So that's the second set of questions. Taking some time to define what is good, what a great person looks
Yeah.
like. Right. So now the question is how.
How?
Pastor, tell me, I want to be a great spouse.
You want to be a great spouse.
How can I be a great spouse?
Okay. So I think we should start from the top.
Yeah.
Okay. I think for core values, right, the first thing is, like I said, you need to have Christian values. You need to have the core Christian values. It's very important. It's very important. Sometimes temptations of this world, some people can get lucky and skate by and might not get some kind of temptations. But you cannot live your life assuming you will not get some kind of temptations. What will keep you in the day of temptation is actually your core values.
Yeah.
What will keep your marriage in days of temptation is actually your core values. So Having the right core values, the Christian core values, is very, very important. But even then, you need to know which values you will be dogmatic about and which one you will give some space for.
Wait, oh,
So you actually need to be that
as a
self-aware
Christian.
as a Christian, yes.
Okay, well,
There
let's
are
go
some
there.
Christian values that we have to be dogmatic about. There are some that we can give some grace for.
Examples.
Okay. When it comes to things that have to do with the belief of what it means to be a Christian, the core values of what it means to be a Christian, you need to be dogmatic about that. The desire to want to be a member of a local church, you have to be dogmatic about that. How God sees humanity, how people should be treated, the values are treated and all that, those things you have to be dogmatic about. Things like the sanctity of life and the inherent dignity of every human being. Christians have always held those things. You have to be dogmatic about it. You ought to be dogmatic about it. Then there are some things that you can have grace for, right? There are some differences of opinion that you can have grace for. Tell me, I don't usually know these kind of things. Things like, okay, maybe some people believe that when you want to dress, you should be dressing calmly.
Okay.
Some people, I can dress a little bit more, more,
Yeah.
not dressing like a crazy
I
person,
think a good
but
litmus test is things that will take you to heaven. At least first your fundamental core belief,
yeah,
which is that you believe in Jesus Christ,
yeah,
not that you believe that Jesus Christ has brothers, right? That you actually believe in the gospel
yeah,
of Christ and things like that. You believe in Jesus Christ. You believe in the church. There's a certain belief you believe about the church, but there are some fringe things. I don't know. Speaking in tongues. I don't know if it's one of the things
yeah,
that you
yeah, all
see.
those kind of things. They
Uh-huh.
should, we shouldn't be dogmatic about those things. But some people insist on being dogmatic about them, but they shouldn't be. And the truth is that if you are dogmatic about the things you should not be dogmatic about, when you grow older, and this world shows you Pepe, by yourself, you become less dogmatic. Have you noticed that with the minority, of course, with the exception of some people, because they are not absolute, but most times, one thing that Christianity does is that as you grow older, you actually become more graceful
Yes.
to other believers. Have you
Yeah.
noticed that
Yeah.
as you grow older, you become more graceful, you become calmer and everything? That's what happens. There's some things you're dogmatic about, there's some things you
Let me
should not be
ask, what
dogmatic about.
about
When people ask these
church?
questions, we can know. Yeah.
Yes, what about church?
The kind
Right.
of church you should go to.
Yes, the denomination.
That's too broad. So are we talking about among two Protestants, a Presbyterian and a Calvinist, or among two, you understand? Because they are different. Yeah. Because if you want to wear white garments and I'm a Protestant, the Protestants cannot wear white garments. It's a problem.
So on all-
So
on the different levels. So you're saying that
so even within the denominations, there are some things that, there are some things that, the truth is that there are some things that actually pertain to core Christian stuff. So, and some denominations are built around them. So,
okay, so yes,
depends on the kind of
denominations
church you're
that are
talking
built
about. Yeah.
around different core Christian
Things,
stuffs, right?
yes.
So
So it follows. So you say the kind of church, it
because I hear people
depends.
say marry within your tribe, meaning that they take that to mean that you should marry either within your church or within another branch of your
No.
church,
I think
or
broadly speaking,
yeah.
broadly speaking, true self-aware Christians who believe in the orthodox, the mere Christianity, the core of Christianity, one person can leave their church for the other. For example, for example,
But
I
I
believe
want
that
to. I
I'm
don't want to
speaking as a
get too
Protestant.
specific, but I also want to get specific, right?
Yeah,
Because this
no, we have to
question
be
now is
specific
about
because there are people that
denomination.
have these kinds of issues.
Exactly.
So,
So I want to leave
I want to give
my.
some real
Oh yeah,
examples.
give
Let me
example
give some, not real examples. I want to give some case,
scenarios. Yeah.
made up case scenarios and all that. If two believers see themselves, and they make a very good match, right? Based on all the things we're going to still talk about and everything. And maybe one person is a Roman Catholic, Orthodox, and another person is a Protestant. Depends on the kind of Protestant. If it was a Lutheran, they can still work out and everything. But the person is like a reformed Calvinist kind of person, right?
You want to marry a Roman
And you want
Catholic.
to marry a Roman Catholic that holds Mary very important, wants to pray to saints and all those kinds of things, you will have
It will cause
issues. But,
problems.
however, if both of them believe in mere Christianity and insist on mere Christianity and insist that they're not going to be dogmatic or willing to move on things that are non-essential, I believe that even a Catholic person should, even though not of them will agree, but we also agree that you don't have to pray to Mary since we have Jesus, right? You
Okay,
don't have to pray to
I want
saints.
to force you
And
to
I
a
want to
corner.
leave that for my husband or for my wife. It's possible.
I want to force you to a corner, right? if you remember, there are times when you said there are things that like relationship 701
Okay.
that you can tell people. Let's
Okay.
do mere Christianity, mere
Mere
relationship,
relationship.
relationship 101. Right. Young people who, just like you said, there's some, if you're in your 40s, 50s, there are some things that will not matter to you.
Yeah, when
At the
you
end of
start,
the day, you will
yeah,
just
when
do.
you start getting older, some
So
things will just be like,
let's say we have a younger audience listening, right? And they're in that scenario. What will you truly advise? When there are many fish in the ocean, what will you advise?
no, that's the problem. It's the illusion of many fish in the ocean.
Ah,
Do you remember that episode of How I Met Your Mother where they wanted to, Ted was going to a matchmaker and was calculating how many women. I said there are 3 million women in New York. By now, I calculate the age, number of women that are of marriageable age, number of women that are looking for marriage, number of women that by the time they calculated, they found that there's only like 2 or 3 people that are possible. The illusion that the fish is plenty in the sea is something that young people need to get out of their head. I think even by
okay.
experience, some people should have suffered enough to know that there are not many fish in the sea. There are different kinds of fish. Some are barracuda, some are sardine, some are the one that you will marry is not
It's
menu.
not meant. Okay. Okay.
So that is why actually, let me do relationship 711. There's actually a we.
But you will start from relationship 101. I say
Okay,
I want to
let me
box
start
you.
101. Okay,
I
let me
want to
just say
box
it.
you to a corner using
Okay,
that same
let me
example.
say
What
relationship
would you advise?
101.
Because me, I know what I would advise. What would you advise?
What I would advise is if the person is a sound believer and different denominations, the person holds some things, and the person wants to be dogmatic about those things that are not the core of Christianity and all that. If the person insists on being dogmatic, you should leave the person
Ah, okay. Because
and move on.
me, I'm aligned though.
Yeah, no, no, no. In fact, the reason why you're even leaving the person because the person is dogmatic. What I want to say that is 701 is if you meet someone that is not willing to be dogmatic on those fringe issues, where the person wants to hold you but is not dogmatic, is not a person, where you can laugh at each other. And I mean it. Like a Protestant marries an Orthodox person, and when she's counting her roses, she's just laughing at her. So when you finish,
And she's
you go
not
and
being
watch TV.
offended.
And she's not offended, like that genuinely, like I don't really think what you're doing makes sense. Or not say makes sense, but I don't really feel what you are doing, but
Yeah, I
it's
don't
fine.
agree,
We're
but
both Christians, we
well,
pray together, we
yes.
believe in the Lord and all those kinds of things. There are actually that levels of self-awareness and maturity that people can do that. The problem is if one of them holds that issue dogmatically, it's better for you to let them go. And then, of course, there are also the issues of the church you're coming from, because some people, your church will not even allow you to marry someone from another
Yeah,
denomination and all
true.
that. So I'm assuming all those things are not part of the
So I
problem.
agree with you. Me, I'm going to add another layer to it, right? I believe that if you are even young and the other person is saying I'm not dogmatic too, right? But one day you sit down and you meditate, I know it's going to be an issue. I'll tell you not to go there. And
Yeah.
I'll say the reason why I'm saying so is because even now, let me know because I'm young too. There's a way when you get in your feelings for a certain type of person,
That one saved
you won't
you.
see clearly. You would
That one
think it's
saved
not
you.
going
You
to be an
think you are
issue.
not dogmatic, but you now find out that.
And then one thing about life, I promise you, as long as the sun is coming out tomorrow, life will throw challenges at you.
Yeah.
And what you don't want is to have something that is going to cause any kind of division. You have to be united. So I would say, if you are still young, right? Because I don't believe that from
I
heaven
agree.
God sent one
If you are
person.
still young and you
If you're
have
still
time,
young and you have time, right, and
maybe
you
you
see some of
should
these things,
maybe you
like
should press
using
forward.
the same example, like a Roman Catholic that is trying to
The
date
Protestants, yeah.
a Protestant Reformed Calvinist, don't do it. I'm telling you now, don't do it,
But
right?
have you seen two 40-year-old Christians
I
that
know
want
I've
to
said
marry?
it now. That I've already, but
You
that's
will
I said
just
if you're
notice
young,
ecumenism will just come
is
out.
all everything will be fine.
You will just notice that all of a sudden you are mature and you can accept your differences. But while you are young, I get it. So that's why I said some things are contextual, actually.
Yeah.
Things are
Okay,
contextual.
so that's the how.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Okay, so you have to be self-aware to have core Christian values
Okay.
and all that. And you need to know what you be dogmatic about and what you not be dogmatic about. You actually have to have that self-awareness. You actually have to ask yourself, as you are growing and you are maturing, it's important for you to make a good spouse, because you should make a decision based on core values first. For you to make a decision based on core values first, you need to know the core values that you will be or you are dogmatic about, and the things you are not dogmatic
I
about.
want to go another level now. So let's assume, right, that people are within the same Christian core value. I'm not saying denomination equals core values, but I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
So they say that they believe the same thing.
Okay.
Because we said the definition of core
When you
value.
said say they believe the same
You
thing,
know,
there's a span.
I'm going
A spanner is
somewhere.
coming.
I'm going somewhere
Okay.
because you defined core values
Your worldview.
as your Christian core values as believing what Jesus did.
Yeah.
Because these are another trends that we've seen.
Okay.
trend as old as time, where
Okay.
we're even in the same church, we're in this thing. You say you're a Christian, I say I'm a Christian, but it's like those core values are not really matching,
Yeah.
because I don't know, maybe at some point in your
Yeah. So you
Christianity
can have one
where
materialistic
things
one, another is
have
not
not, yes,
materialistic.
have not taken root, right? We are hearing the same thing, but things have not taken root in
Okay.
you. Things have not taken root in
What
me.
do you
Because
do?
what do you do? How do you yourself
Very
as a
good
person?
question.
Remember, we're talking of working on yourself, right? How do you ensure that you are not still at a level where your convictions are not deep enough,
Oh,
where you're not parroting things? Because
good.
that means your core value has not taken root. And here is the thing, especially if you got born again. What that means is at some point you had a different OS running in your system. You had a
Yeah.
different
And you are growing in
core
sanctification.
value,
Yeah.
right? And then you yourself, you now say, okay, check number one, I'm a Christian, I'm going to this church. That means I'm good to go, right? And you think that, but you're not really good to go. I'm not even talking of the next, I'm talking of you as yourself. We are not really good to go because
Yeah.
it's like your head is not yet correct,
Yeah.
right?
I
So,
feel you.
what are the kinds of things? How does that person get
Okay.
to someone
So
with?
for different levels of spiritual growth and different levels of sanctification, what I would advise is don't start the relationship officially until the person has gotten more mature.
No, we're talking of ourselves now.
Yes.
So,
So it's very, very dicey because a lot of people will not necessarily have the self-awareness to know.
I'm not at this level.
Yes. So, okay, let's assume that the person is self-aware enough. What will happen is you shouldn't get into relationship with someone that you know is a serious person. Every person is not a serious person. When you know that there are some core issues with you that
That
you
you're
have
still
not yet
dealing with.
done with. I mean core issues because your own bad core values can also affect the person that you're going out with. Do you understand
So
that?
are there things like, for me, I'll say using the fruit of the spirit is a very good example. Using the fruit of the spirit is a good litmus test, right? Again, people are evaluating themselves.
Okay.
To what extent are you displaying the fruit of the spirit?
Oh, is that
That's
what
what
you
I
were
mean.
asking?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I
To
understand
what
now.
extent are you displaying the fruit of the spirit? Because,
Right.
right, I don't want people to think that it's just about the denomination you are going to. You are
Interesting. If
displaying the core values of Christianity.
core values is actually even different from fruit of spirit is actually going to work on the personality level,
Okay.
not at the core values level. Core values level is actually what the person believes. A person can believe that being materialistic is bad, but still be struggling with lack of self-control when they see money.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
understand that? Uh-huh. So, for core values, I'll say it's important that you know what they are, you are taught what they are, and you are aware of what you should be dogmatic on and what you should not be dogmatic on.
But the reason why I'm bringing up things like fruits of the spirit, because we've seen it, right? Where people who say they are Christians, but they are not loving.
So that's where the
So
personality
let's
part
go to
comes in.
personality,
Careful so
right?
that.
They are not loving, right? They are not patient. They are not kind. They don't have self control, and everything that we see in the fruits of the spirit, right? And
So
it has thrown up different conversations where people try and pit two against each other and say between the gift of the spirit and the fruits of the spirit, which one should you display and things like that. But again, thinking and working on yourself, let's go to personality and let's start with displaying the fruits of the spirit. How do you get to be a good person?
okay. So that's why it's important for people to start from the foundation, which is core values, right? Values modulate personality.
Okay.
And so, and one thing I would say that's like a key, if a person has the right values, the way your right values would flow into the kind of personality that you have. Because, like we said, there are different kinds of personalities. So you can be quietly loving, you can be introvertedly loving, you can be extrovertedly loving, you can be conscientiously loving, you can be non-conscientiously loving. Do you understand? All those different things are those different personality types with the same core value system, right? So the way the point is, as you have your different personalities, the different kind of person you have and different kind of interests that you have. Some people are interested in movies. I'm interested in technical stuff. I'm interested in science. Me, I'm just interested in cooking. I'm interested in baking. I don't like talking about philosophy. All those things are playing at the level of personality and all that. The core values, the Christian core values, should modulate your personality such that you don't introvert yourself to the point where your introversion is preventing you from walking in love towards a person. And let me
Yeah.
talk practically.
Practically,
What
yeah.
I mean is this. Let me give you an example of someone who is, let's assume that someone is high in conscientiousness. That means that the person is a very diligent person, very systematic. They like to plan their things. If you bath, don't spray foam on the wall, wash it, put the toothpaste well. I don't want my things to be scattered and all those kinds of things. Another person is like, we only live once, right? My life does not have to be so planned and everything. I can do things, I'll come back to it and all those kinds of things, right? You are allowed to have those different personalities and say, okay, this is the kind of person I am, this is not the kind of person I am. Where there'll be a problem is that when you see someone who is low on conscientiousness, because you are working in love, because you have the core values of you are willing the good of a person, right? You will be willing to clean up after the person that you are with. Do you understand that? If the burden is becoming too much, you will be willing to have a conversation with the person to see how the person can be a little bit more conscientious or to help.
Yeah.
And the person also, assuming that the person has the core values of Christian core values, which is walking in love, the person will also recognize that I'm putting a lot of strain on this person, right? And let me try a little bit harder. That way, even though they have different personalities, the love of God will constrain them
Yeah.
to modulate their behaviors to at least work together. Do you understand that? So let's use the example of our pastors, right? I'd like using that example, PD and Primo, right? The example of how PD doesn't like going out, Primo does not like going out, and they still work perfectly fine.
Yep.
You don't have to now begin to be someone that likes going out. You don't need to change that. But what will happen is, I'm someone that doesn't like going out. I won't disturb you. I'll go out on my own. But sometimes I really want you to go out with me.
And because
When
I love you
because
so
I really
much,
want you to go out with me,
I
I
will
love
go
you.
out with
I
you.
will move myself to go out with you, and I'll force myself to enjoy myself going out with you. So that's why core values are actually most important. That mistake that people make. You see, I'm looking for someone that can go out. I know Shemi, they will be using going out to be finishing your life. You need someone, first of all, that has the right value system, right? And so that will now modulate the behavior. And so that's why all those fruit of the spirit, self-control and all that, they will now flow into your personality types, that even if you are different, right, your personalities can now flow together. And what will happen is that the more you stay together, the more you guys will now know how to make your own two different personalities.
please clarify,
to
stay together.
married now. Which other stay
Yeah,
together?
okay. But before marriage,
Or,
don't go.
no, even in courtship, right? Even in
In
courtship.
courtship, stay together. Please.
No, as you are knowing each other, there's no that stay together for Christians. As you are talking in church, when you
Okay.
meet with chaperones and people are watching
Okay,
you,
okay.
they are putting space for the Holy Spirit.
You have to be clear about these
Okay.
things, Pastor. Things are happening.
See, if you see someone that wants to be living with you in the same house before you are married, that's red flag. Christian value down, number one. You are playing with fire. Right? So that's how core values can
Your
affect
face is symmetrical,
personalities.
don't worry.
My face is symmetrical, Abby, thank you. So that's how core values actually seep into personality types, and then people can grow together by one. Now, I should say some things. There are some like really fringe personality types that are so weird for most people. Like, for example, someone that is like very low in neuroticism, that is almost prone to anxiety disorder. That means that if the person is
Very
like
low, very high.
very high in neuroticism, rather, sorry. Someone that's very high in neuroticism that's almost prone to anxiety disorder, that any small thing the person is worrying, is always shaking, any small thing the person is like, something doesn't go well. I entered the bus today and the conductor's spit touched me. My day has ruined. Oh my God, Kiniko. Now start feeling bad and you're depressed. So that's people that are their personality. They're not bad people. They know the truth. The word of God is in their heart, but their personality do manifest like
In
that.
different ways, yeah.
Such a person, right? People that have those really fringe personality types,
Or people who are so who are very low on empathy.
or someone that's very, very low on empathy, that kind of thing.
Like something bad happened to me. Okay.
Okay, that's those kinds of things. Such people, even the first thing is to be sure that they have the right core values, right? If they have their core values, I would suggest that sometimes, and depending on the kind of capacity that you have in a person, sometimes the work of fitting with another person's personality can be too much to bear.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
Sometimes, not all the time. And this is why psychologists will be right. There are some personality types that are too different that even though they are both Christians and they have the right values, right? And objectively and truly, by the help of the Holy Spirit, if they were living in post-World War II times where they match make you and you have to marry or you just die out, you will make it work by force. But in this world now,
yeah,
where you have options, right? Instead of doing that kind of very hard work, it might be better to not date the person. Maybe until the
But
person
what if you're now
improves.
that person? Again, man in the mirror. What
Okay,
if you are
yes.
that person?
What if you are that person, right? If Thank you very much. This is very, very good. For you to be that good person that will become a better person, one thing that's very important for you in terms of personality and interest is number one, is to be aware of the kind of personality that you have. You need to be very aware. You need to be self-aware. You need to know the kind of person that you are.
How so
Spend time. That's why
speaking like a pastor and clinically speaking, how do you get aware of your personality?
you have to sit down and meditate and reflect on the kind of life you believe in. And this is the reason why
What's your opinion on personality assessments?
personality assessment is actually a good thing. One, you can take a personality assessment type. It will tell you a lot of things and you can match it with what you know about yourself. Personality assessment is actually a good thing to do. So you can be aware. And this is the reason why it is important for you not to enter so many relationships. When you enter too many relationships, you are distracted and you don't have time to know yourself. You actually need to know yourself, right? So if you know your personality type and you are very aware of it and all that, you now let your core Christian values modulate those personality types so that you can know what to do. You can't say I'm a very disagreeable person. Naturally, I don't take nonsense. Naturally, I don't take nonsense. You can't be doing that every time. Do you understand that? You can't.
Yeah.
You'll be aware that okay, I don't take nonsense. So, but this my not taking nonsense is rubbing people around me the wrong way, and people are taking it the wrong way. Therefore, when I don't feel like taking nonsense, I will let the knowledge of Christ, the love of Christ that's inside of me, modulate me from taking some nonsense. Do you understand? So your personality of being disagreeable is there, but how you manifest it will be shaped
And I want to
by
quickly say something about this personality. I think the way the world is today, we have made it a kind of god, a kind of idol,
yeah.
where everybody just wants to be. I'm living myself. I'm being
Yeah,
myself.
worshiping
Right?
themselves.
You're
Yeah.
worshiping yourself, and people are like, "This is who I am,"
Yeah.
and make you look like, yes, queen. Every other person has to bow to me. I'm just
Yeah.
that kind of person. I've seen all manner of things. People will even use. Some people can use personality assessment. Some people can use things like horoscope or whatever it is to just
Astrology.
you astrology.
I'm a Pisces.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Aquarius. No,
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Oh,
Right?
Capricorn.
I just be like, no, I'm a Capricorn. This is who I am,
Mm.
right? And just for me, I just see it as you're just
Christians
being.
don't talk like
No,
that.
we don't, and a lot of people now mix that to saying I don't want to change who I am. I will not change who I am, so I cannot not recognize myself and things like that. I don't want to lose myself, and might take this the wrong way to say you trying to modulate your personality not for the other person. This is the other thing I need to understand. The anchor of your soul has to be Christ. You know
Yeah.
that you're doing this because this is what Christians do,
Yeah.
not because you're necessarily trying to be just a spouse to you. You are doing this because I will give account to Jesus. I want to live. I don't want to live my best life. I want to live my Jesus life. Right? You're feeling it.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you,
Amen.
thank you. Right? So because of that, I will do everything, including being aware that there might be parts of my personality that will not allow me fulfill God's purpose for my life,
Yeah.
which is live as a Christian here on earth. And I will slaughter those things on the altar
Yeah.
of Christ. I will
Yeah.
take up Jesus
Yeah.
as my personality, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why it's important to be self-aware and let God's word modulate your personality is that sometimes when your personality is being changed over time because of God's word, or you have some excesses in your personality and all that, right? You can actually begin to resent not doing what you naturally want to do. Because basically, personality is just what a person naturally would like to do. It's not a comment on what the person should do,
Yeah.
or how the person should be.
Yeah.
It just tells you what the person naturally
Naturally
wants
is
to do,
inclined to.
right? Is inclined to, right? Sometimes, if you are adjusting that, for whatever reason, you can actually begin to get offended and bitter, not doing what you always want to do. For example, as someone that like going out, and this is one thing that happened, a lot of people get, resent Christianity. These are some of the things that makes people sometimes resent Christianity
Christianity,
or resent
yeah.
their local church and all that. You have to be self-aware enough so that because you are restricting certain things in your personality, you find yourself resentful, you are also aware.
Yeah.
You're also aware. That kind of self-awareness is important because you know that, okay, I'm someone that is naturally extroverted. If I see a good person that is introverted, I need to be self-aware to know that if this person makes me want to be always introverted, I can do it to a certain level, but if I do it more than this, I will start feeling one kind.
Yeah.
That's why that self-awareness is very important.
Okay, so let's go to the last level, and I think we'll wrap up there and we'll take questions.
Okay.
But that's not the end of this topic. There's still so much that I want us to talk about, but at least for today, we can wrap up there.
Yeah.
So the last level, external circumstances. How? How?
Okay, thank you. So what I'll say is, first of all, for external circumstances, how to become a better person is number one is to be healthy. I told you the basic thing about looking good is actually being healthy. Work out, eat well as much as possible. Make sure that you're healthy. When you are healthy, you will look good, you will feel good, you will be attractive to people, except the person has inordinate tastes or weird idiosyncratic tastes, and Christians shouldn't have that anyway. But as a person, if you are healthy, if you are if you are healthy, you eat well, exercise, and all those
And you
kinds of
don't need
things. Treat your
money
body
for
well.
gym to.
No. You don't need that. You can just always be active, live an active life, do exercises in your house, eat well, don't eat anyhow, don't eat anything. Just feel like eating
Don't
and everything.
despise the days of chasing boss.
Yeah.
It's exercise.
Yeah, if you are healthy, you look good, and that's one thing that brings me up to the things that are happening nowadays and everything. When people just say, "I'm like this," you're an obese person, and you say, people are carnal for not tripping for my obesity. Obesity is an unhealthy thing. That's why instinctively people are not attracted to obese people. It's not good. You actually have to work on yourself, right? If you notice that because of your own makeup, your body conserves a lot of energy. So if you eat more, your body will conserve it very well and all that. This is
So
where
your
being a Christian
metabolism is
comes. So what
different
you
and
do is
things like
that,
that.
okay, so you might never be skinny, like, right? But what you can do is that don't overeat and have enough activity. If you do that, your body will balance and you have that optimal figure for yourself. Not that you now be allow yourself and let go and say, "This is how I am," and now be obese. Obesity is not a good thing. It's unhealthy for you. You
Yeah.
won't be able to live long, and you won't be attractive. So be healthy. You don't need to make up too much. You don't need to do things to adjust your body and fix your body and
BBL.
move fat from some place and put them in another places and all that. A Christian
Or
Christians don't.
lengthen your leg.
These
You
were
know,
core values
you
matter.
guys have their
I
BBL
know that they
now.
are increasing length of their
Yes,
leg.
that's
All
their
those things
own
is nonsense, because the God that made you in a certain way,
4 foot.
certain levels of adjustment suggest that you
Has
don't
become an
believe.
idol.
Yeah, like you don't believe God knows what He's doing and all that. So you don't need all that. Just be healthy.
Yeah.
Then, with respect to material stuff, learn and train yourself to be productive and to be independent. Be good at something, and be as productive as that thing that you're good at can provide for you. Be good at it and be as productive as possible with that thing, right? That's what matters. You don't have to have all the money in the world. Just make sure that with what you have, you are productive and yourself independent. This goes for both guys and girls,
Yeah.
right? Because even if you want to be a housewife, right, or for the minority of cases, unusual cases, but it's possible, a
House
guy wants to
husband.
be a house husband and all that, right? Even if you want to be, you need to have that ability to be productive. You need to have that ability to be productive so that if something happens, you can always pick up the slack. Number two, even while you are in the house, you will manage the house well.
Yeah.
Because, and allow me to segue here a bit, part of the problem that we are having, especially in this part of the world, is that our societies are changing too quickly for us to be self-aware to catch up with it.
Okay.
Just 50 years ago, we were more collectivist. Parents did not spend so much energy parenting. Parents were doing the minimal and their children were turning out okay. Why? Because the parent was not parenting the
Took a
child
village.
alone. A village was parenting the guy. So a parent can do the bare minimum. Might not be very interested in the child's life, but you have uncles living with you, you have aunties, you have cousins. All these people give you a sense of measure of how to behave yourself in community. But within a short time, especially in the urban areas in Nigeria, we have become more nucleated. And because we become more nucleated, it means that what used to take a whole village to train to do before
Is now heavy on
is now
one
heavy
person.
on you.
Yeah.
Is now heavy on you. And I'm telling you truly, Christian families will need to consider more and more, especially if you don't have the resources for it, if you don't have the context for it, where someone needs to stay at home to train children.
Yeah.
Because the kind of energy required to train a child well is a kind of energy that it takes a village to train. So when you think
So
of it
there's
like
no
that,
grandma, there's no grandpa,
there's
there's
no
no
grandma, there's no
uncle.
grandpa, no uncle. When I was growing up,
You don't
we
have
had
neighbors you
uncles, we
can
had aunties.
trust.
You understand?
Yeah.
So even if I misbehave, my mother might not even know I'm going wayward. It's my auntie that will
But
catch it.
even your neighbor down the street
Even
will
your neighbor down
just
the street will give you slap, your head will just, that kind of thing. But now,
everybody will
if you
just,
don't know your child, if you are going 9 a.m., coming back 8 p.m. every day, your child will be
and it's
someone
happening
else.
to both
And it's
parents,
happening to both
Monday to
parents.
Friday.
So people need to consider someone that you can trust being at home to raise children. So because of that, right, both of you have to be productive people. A woman or a man who wants to stay at home to mind their children, more women and men, that puts it in perspective, right? Right? So you're going to stay at home to raise children, you must also have that sense of productivity and self-independence, whereby even being at home is going to actually be an addition to the family. It helps to raise the children well, manage the home well, and all those kinds of things. So you must think, you must be productive. You don't have to have all the money in the world, but think of yourself and say, am I as productive as I should be? And then thirdly is learn how to treat people well. Practice the changes in your personality, how you want to be a good person. Practice it with other people, everybody around you. Practice it with your
I
siblings.
think a good
Practice it in
litmus
church.
test is ask yourself, and if you have people that are willing to be honest, right, you could ask them that what kind of person am I to be with? Am I
Yeah.
actually an enjoyable person
Yeah.
to be with? This is not even, and this is not a case of whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Like,
Yeah.
am I actually a kind-hearted person
Yeah.
to be with, or am I the type of person that when I enter the room, people just use style to just disappear because you know that if I'm not going to spend within the next first 1 hour, if I'm not complaining of something, I'm shooting down something else, or you have to ask people. I think it's other people that can give you insights
Yeah.
to how it is
Yeah.
being around you, hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Whether in your space or outside, or when every time you're outside, you are overly loud. You don't allow other people talk. It's only you like the sound of your own voice,
Yeah.
right? A good way to find out is to actually ask people, how am I? Because some people are, like you said,
Take feedback.
yeah, some people might not be self-aware,
Yeah.
and they will just continue thinking, oh, I'm just being myself. But
Yeah.
you don't realize that this yourself that you're just being.
Yeah.
I would
A lot
rather
of
be with
people, after
someone
they've had
else.
relationship issues, and they now say, you broke up, and now say, yes, the person said this about me. Saying you do not know that you're like that. Your friends will not be telling you do not know. And that's normal now.
And
You see, my friend,
genuinely, they will be
when,
like,
when the person is reporting you and now say, this is what your friend did that made me break up, you're like, my friend does that actually. I believe you because I know my friend.
true.
That's why you need to work on yourself. You need to
True.
actually get feedback from people so that when the person you're dating starts telling you that you're behaving like that,
You'll be
that
feeling,
you'll be feeling
yes.
stressed, like I already know.
And I think
and all
another
that.
good litmus test is if it's always them and not you.
Yeah.
What do I mean? It can be your friends, your previous relationship, your previous workers. It's always
Everybody's
everybody
a bad
else.
person. You are the only good person.
You are the only good person.
If you are the only good person, you're a bad person.